Welcome to the CTOX podcast. This is the place to be if you're a technology leader navigating the fractional CTO landscape. I'm Marissa Brassfield, joined by Lior Weinstein, the visionary behind CTOX.
Here, we cut through the noise to deliver actionable insights for CTOs at every stage, whether you're looking at your first five-figure client or actively building systems to scale.
That's right. You'll learn principles, not just tactics, to transform your technical expertise into a thriving fractional practice. Let's dig in. Welcome back to the CTOX podcast. Most entrepreneurs build businesses in the pursuit of expanding and growing their freedom. And freedom is more than time, money, or location. It's also about who you share them with. Today, we're exploring one of the most overlooked advantages of entrepreneurship: freedom of relationship, the ability to choose who you spend your working life with. We'll talk about how Leor optimizes for freedom of relationship in his own fractional CTO practice, how we optimize for it at CTOX, and we'll ultimately make the case for why this focus is the most powerful lever for flourishing in life and business. Leor, it's always a pleasure to record with you. And today, I think, will be my favorite conversation yet.
Yeah, definitely one of the bigger themes in our lives. So it's going to be exciting.
So let's start with a baseline. When we say freedom of relationship, let's define it. What does it mean? And why is this so important for entrepreneurs and leaders?
So the context of freedom of relationship means being able to choose which relationships do you have in real life, meaning other people. This could be customers, partners, employees, investors, whatever it is. I kind of say whatever people are in a room or in a Zoom. And that is freedom from having to spend time with certain people and freedom to spending time with certain people, because you can have all the money and time in the world, but if the people you work with drain your energy, you're not really free.
Yeah, I we see it a lot in the CTOX accelerator, and a lot of people can recognize when they don't have freedom of relationship. It's like the anti-pattern. What does freedom of relationship look and feel like in practice?
So it's about thinking when you're about to engage in a new relationship with, again, a client, a potential hire, whatever it is noticing the energy. Meaning, at the end of that interaction, do you have more energy? Do you have less energy? Are you able to also bring energy to that encounter? Or you have to, like, almost draw energy to be able to just survive the meeting? And in practice, it means being able to, first of all, say no. So say no to prospects, say no to deals, say no to hires, and also being able to pull the trigger. Kind of now that you've met a client or you met an employee or a potential vendor, that's really good, being able to afford the relationship in time and money and whatever that is. The biggest thing I found is really that filtering. So if you have a good bar, a good understanding of what makes you happy and what fills you up with energy, it's really mostly a lot of no's. If you know how to identify it and you say no to a relationship, you're effectively are going to be left with the yeses. And that means every meeting you get to do is a meeting you would want to be in. Like right now, I love spending time with you, Marisa, because it's fun for us. You give me energy, I give you energy. It doesn't really matter what we do. So the content of the meeting is not the predictor of how you're going to feel by the end of it. It's the people in the room. So in practice, it looks like, what are the people you get to spend time with? When I was in my military days early on in boot camp, you have this very big realization. Really, it doesn't matter if you're washing dishes or cleaning the floor. If the person next to you is a person that you're having a good time with, you're going to have a good time. It doesn't matter if it's quote unquote grunt work or very high quality leadership work. It's really the time spent with other people that fills you or drains you with energy.
Well said. We talk a lot about these freedoms inside the CTOX accelerator. And my experience is a lot of the new members coming in are almost dismissive of freedom of relationship in the beginning. And this is my assessment and observation, not something that they're outright saying. But a few months in, there's a switch and they start to feel it. They start to notice and optimize for it. What would you say to people who are listening and thinking, well, I can deal with anyone. It actually doesn't matter who I work with. I don't care who I work with.
Mhm. I guess it depends on what you're optimizing for, right? So if we think about this four freedom framework from Dan Sullivan about for you to be happy, you want to expand and create these four freedoms: freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of purpose, and freedom of relationship. And freedom of time means, again, choosing how you're going to spend time on something. Freedom of money, being able to afford whatever you want to buy, doesn't matter if it's cheap or expensive, just being able to do it. And freedom of purpose, choosing what you're working on, or are you working on something that somebody else is choosing? And freedom of relationship is what we're talking about today. So if you're optimizing right now for freedom of money and time, maybe you're going to sacrifice freedom of relationship a little bit. But once those are satisfied, meaning you hit your time goals, you're spending the right amount of time on work and personal life and so on. When you've hit your money goals, you can generally buy whatever you feel like you want to buy in your life, and purpose is aligned, then you're really left with relationship. And then you're noticing how um, just incredibly draining or filling good relationships are. So it's not about the ability to deal with anyone. It's not meaning it's not about can you, it's about do you want to, right? So you're right. It doesn't matter from your ability to make money, meaning do you convert 10 hours into, $3,000, whatever that is. Can you do that with anyone? Yeah. But do you want to do it with anyone? Meaning, given the choice, won't you rather spend it with people that you don't feel exhausted and drained by the end of the week? Now, maybe at the beginning, building your business, you're willing to quote unquote sacrifice on some of that relationship value. But as people get traction, they understand they have a choice. And when you have a choice, you would want to go for the energy. We still have like a no asshole rule, right? Like we also screen in the program, and certainly we recommend for CTOs when they build up their book of business, find curiosity, find humility, find collaboration. And if somebody is more abrasive in life, and I don't mean like curse, right? I mean the way they look at how they need to deal with other people, then I recommend you generally don't, because they're going to be abrasive with you. And if you think you're going to be safe from it, you're not. So um, as you're building up your business, there's less sensitivity to relationship. As the business goes up and you realize you have options, relationships really ends up becoming the number one filter for anything you do.
That's beautiful. And, there's levels to this. There's levels to the toxicity and to what you will be willing to tolerate. And you and I know that inside of our community at CTOX, there were 5 members who in the last month were hospitalized because of stress from either their employer or a client. And so there's parts of this where maybe cognitively you can hang, but your body is going to show you signals way before. And if you are not paying attention, it's very likely that your body will force you to pay attention at some point if you let it go on long enough.
Yeah.
So you mentioned early on spotting these. The alignment and the freedom of relationship with clients. How do you look at and build filters that help you identify these right fit humans early on?
I notice behaviors, and I like to say, never trust what a man says, never doubt what a man does. So behaviors are a big indicator for me. And you have these simple filters. A lot of entrepreneurs, for example, talk about, the server test. Let's go to lunch, let's go to get coffee and see how they treat the servers, right? Did they treat them with respect? That's basic, kind of cordial. How they behave in different environments, right? Like, are they behaving differently with me than with their team or other vendors, or certainly with their family? So I'm looking for consistency, and I'm basically looking for that. Um, what's the creature from the Hobbit? Gollum, right? I'm looking for the Gollum moments, right? Like you think you're talking to Bilbo, and suddenly Gollum, snaps out, and because nobody acts like it. I think that's the general thing. The difference between like drama in the movies and real life, like um, evil on the extreme or like bad behavior is not just evident, right? It's people. You don't just have people walking around being assholes all the time, or being evil all the time, right? Or being disrespectful all the time. Most people are generally just fine. So you really want to notice the edge cases. You want to notice the off comment. right? The disrespectful comment. You want to notice a behavior that's like a silent resistance, right? A silent adversarial behavior. So I'm really looking for those cues. Certainly, you have faces. A lot of people talk about micro expressions and so on, but I'm looking really for micro behaviors. It's not going to be glaring. It's never glaring. Nobody ever comes in and they look like a Looney Tunes villain, right? That would be so nice if that happened. So you're really trying to find these kind of proxy indicators, these kind of pointers that, oh, further down the road, this is going to be very challenging from an energy perspective to me, right? It's however I perceive it because it's a very personal preference. And once I notice them, I really just try to acknowledge that I'm noticing it. Like if I'm noticing it, it means it's noticeable for me. It made an impression for me. So I shouldn't ignore it.
So you mentioned some of these impressions and these signals that you're looking for. On a practical, tactical, technological perhaps sense, how do you create and infuse these filters into your business systems, whether it's contracts, onboarding, triage, so that these kind of relational boundaries are somewhat automatically enforced?
Well, first of all, I try to not to get into a contract before I validate, that I think the energy is going to be pretty good. From a practical perspective, I always need a ramp out. So my contracts, for example, are generally going to be month to month or a 30-day exit because I need the ability to pull the parachute and not like be trapped for 6 months because they prepaid me and now I don't know what to do. Right? I realize it's too late. Same thing for any onboarding, sales, triage. I'm looking for these micro moments on how they react to basic requests. Are they taking a long time? Are they pushing back on minor things that I'm like, man, if they're pushing back on this right now, what's going to happen when it's actually like a big thing? Now, it's not hermetically sealed, right? Like we don't really know what's going to happen. That's why the contract has the clause out because if I could completely validate everything ahead of time, I wouldn't need it. So I just need to really notice that when I'm building a relationship, it's not a one-way door, and I have a way to step back and reset.
Well, that concept of one way doors is really important.
Yeah.
Um, so for someone who is listening and they're realizing, ooh, I'm stuck in a draining relationship, whether it's with a client, with someone that you're seeing day in, day out at work, what's the first thing that they should do?
First of all, noticing is great. So that's the first step, right? No, notice that that's what's happening. There's obviously the practical side. Is it your only client, and you're gonna, let them go and take away all your income? Maybe not the best decision, not the safest decision, right? But if you notice you're in a bad relationship, you have a few, and that could be with your client, with your employees, whatever it is. First of all, I noticing is great. Increasing your bar for the next relationship is very important, so you don't repeat it. So kind of look at the attributes, look at the quality of what made you take on this relationship, and try not to repeat it for next time. And you really have two options. One is turn around, have an honest conversation, say, "Hey, listen, this is what I'm getting. This is what I'm feeling. Um, what do you think? Let's see what it is." I've seen turnarounds. It's not that they don't exist, they're just not as common. But I've seen turnarounds because maybe you putting in a mirror to them is actually going to help them say, "Oh, I don't want to come off like this," or "I don't want to, I'm sorry." Or they say, "What are you talking about? It's completely fine." Okay, now you're validated the problem. And which is also good because maybe you have an idea that it's draining, but now like this is actually a bad relationship and you need an exit route or an escape plan. And then if you really know that this is going to be bad, then I think you should actively pursue something else and your level of safety and risk. Like, do you want to hit, the parachute right now, or the eject handle right now, or wait until you get a client that's more mechanic, with your life decisions and life situations. For me, when that happens, I usually build a ramp. It's not this immediate bye bye. I certainly try to save it before, but if not, that means now that I know I've seen it, now I'm taking actions to be able to recover and replace.
Beautiful. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who reminds you that good business starts with good people. We're going to continue the conversation on freedom in our next episode, focusing on revenue as an energy exchange. I'm looking forward to that conversation too, Leor. See you soon.
See you soon.
That wraps up another episode of the CTOX podcast. We hope today's conversation gave you the tools and inspiration to advance your journey as a fractional CTO.
And don't forget, if you want more in-depth support or to connect with our community of fellow fractional CTOs, visit us at ctox.com.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the CTOX podcast.